more than the Supreme Court, let's dig into you and me and the country we have now. I have said this before. I say it as often as I can, and I understand that it is hard to hear, and it angers people or scares people or saddens people, but that's not the intention. The intention is that me, you, all of us, that we understand where we live, we understand how we should act in these times, and we're never going to be able to act appropriately if we don't understand what kind of country we live in. So allow me to say this again. The next 10, 20, 30, 40 years in the United States of America will look nothing like the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. No matter your age. Maybe you're 42 like me. Maybe you're 82. Maybe you're 2. Well, no matter your age, the country we are becoming, where we're going, will not look like where we left. In a lot of ways, it's going to be really bad. In a lot of ways, we'll figure it out and we'll get through it. But there are things that we must understand and accept, like for the instance, the Supreme Court, because that's really what we're talking about here. The supreme law, the land, all these other things. The Supreme Court says so, and that's the way it goes. That's how it used to be. Those days are gone now. Those days are gone now. Remember when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, which was the right decision? What was the response? The federal government, the Justice Department, immediately declared war on pro-lifers across the country in response to a Supreme Court decision. They started arresting grandmas and throwing them in prison. We're in a totally different ballgame now. The Supreme Court ruled on things like student debt relief. The President of the United States of America is not a king, a dictator. He doesn't just get to say, hey, you, taxpayer, give me your money. I'm going to take it and I'm going to pay off this guy. He can't do that. It's against the law. The Supreme Court said, you can't do that. It's against the law. The president said, watch me.
Tens of millions of people's debt was literally about to get canceled. But then some of my Republican friends and elected officials and special interests sued us, and the Supreme Court blocked us. But that didn't stop us. No, I mean it sincerely. We continue to find alternatives passed to reduce student debt payments.
They just brag about it now. One of Joe Biden's communications people, he got real famous yesterday, thanking Joe Biden. Thanks, Joe. Guy had $8,300 in student loan debt. He's had it since 2010. I need to point out that's less than $600 a month. He could have paid off the entire thing very, very quickly. He didn't. And because the moron put his address online, we now know he lives in a $500,000 home in working man, working woman, just paid off his student loans. What's happening right now in the speed with which it's happening in the country is changing everything. So this country is not going to look like the country you've known. And here's what really sucks about this. And I say this as someone who's 42. This will be more difficult for me than it will be for my sons. My sons are 13 and 15. It will be more difficult for my parents than it will be for me. Age is a consideration here because how long have you lived in a normal country? You've gotten used to living in a normal country if you're of a certain age. This new, wild America, it's going to be harder to accept for people who are older. The older you are, the harder it will be. But things are coming now. And they're bad. And we have to talk about it. Let's talk about the budget deficit. We are running, according to the Congressional Budget Office now, a $1.9 trillion budget deficit for the year of 2024. Now, I need you to take this thing. So I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of numbers and things like that. So let's just set aside the details. I think that's $200 a month. And if you stack the dollar bills, that means nothing to people. Allow me to explain this. That will end us quickly. No nation can do that. That kind of spending, historically, has only ever been in response to not just any war, a huge war. World War II. That's when you would spend, that's when a government would spend that much more than they're taking in. We're in an emergency situation. Oh my gosh. If there was an actual pandemic, a natural disaster wiping out things, it would take something incredible to justify running that kind of a budget deficit. There are no world wars. There's no pandemic. There's nothing going on, and the federal government is now spending $1.9 trillion more than we are taking in. We are spending as if it's World War III, but it's not World War III. We currently are in a currency crisis, so we should be spending less than we have ever. That's why you can't afford eggs, rent, shoes, flights, gas. You can't afford these things because of Washington's spending. So at a time when they should be slashing and burning every single part of the federal budget, they are spending more than they've ever spent before. Every horrible thing right now is accelerating. And it's going to create some things. And look, I want to talk really quickly about the Supreme Court, about the courts, about the law, about the states, because there's a great story out of Louisiana. Louisiana passed a law, and they said, in the classroom, you will display the 10 Commandments. It's now a requirement in Louisiana, you will display the 10 Commandments. And of course, the ACLU's mad about it. All these people are mad about it. Everyone's trying to use your values against you. Oh, we now don't have a religion. It should be tolerant of our other religions. Well, what about Islam and the Jehovah's Witnesses?
I'm very opposed to it. And it's not anything to do with disliking religion. It's just that there are different religions that exist in our communities. I've taught Jehovah's Witnesses. I've taught Muslim students. I have really great Muslim teacher friends who are going to now have to display Christianity as the accepted or promoted religion in our state.
Yeah, it should be the promoted religion in your state. It's fine with the country having a religion. It's fine with the state having a religion. Doesn't mean you want to be intolerant of other religions, but nations have religions. The reason that Hague is upset about this ruling, the reason so many people are upset about this ruling is they don't like the religion that was chosen. You see, they want this to remain the US of gay. They want communism to remain the only religion in schools. Do you think it's an accident the schools have gotten more and more putrid the further away the 10 Commandments have gotten from them? You want to live in a decent society? It will be a society that has chosen a decent religion. You want to live in a despicable, depraved society where we chop penises off in hospitals? Well, then you can choose the religion of communism. And maybe this ruling, maybe it made you uncomfortable. Maybe you don't like the 10 Commandments. Maybe you are a Muslim or an atheist or something like that. That's fine. That's fine. I get that. But understand something. There will be a religion in this country. I don't care what you say or what I say about it. That's not an opinion. Nations have religions. You got to choose one. And don't make the mistake of doing the nursery rhyme conservatism thing. I just want school to teach math. Schools, they're filled with teachers. Teachers teach students. Teachers are not robots. They are human beings, flesh and blood human beings with religions. Your child will be taught religion in school. Now, whether it's a public school or private one, you better choose the right one. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right. There's a 100-person village. We've done this before. That's where you live. It's where I live. We live in this little 100-person village. We're out in Africa. And there is, in one of the huts, it's the medical hut. That's where the doctors and nurses, that's where they live, work. Well, I mean, that's where they work. That's where they go in. You have any medical problems, that's where you go get healed. There's another hut. That's the hut that's kind of in charge of enforcing the law. The cops, if you will, in the village. Hey, you broke the law. Jaywalking, you didn't feed your cattle. Okay, so that's good. We need institutions like that, right? Law enforcement is a critical institution. The medical hut, that's critical. People are going to get sick, get injured. We need people to heal, and that's good. But what do you do if those institutions turn bad, hostile to the village itself? This is a question we have to ask ourselves, and we better come up with the appropriate answers because that's where we are in the country. Have you ever heard of Texas Children's Hospital? This is not just a Texas thing. You should know this is a world-renowned children's hospital. People will fly, princes will fly from across the globe on their private jets to get their children care, medical attention at Texas Children's Hospital, a revered medical institution. Well, I know I'm going to spoil this for you, but it's in Texas. And in Texas, you can't perform child mutilation tranny surgeries. You're not allowed to do that here. You're not allowed to chop off the penises of young boys, the breasts of young girls. That's a no-go. Okay. But Texas Children's Hospital is evil. So many of our medical institutions are evil, and the evil oftentimes laughs at your rules. You see, Texas Children's Hospital allegedly is still chopping off the penises and the breasts of young boys and young girls. And we have a whistleblower. The two institutions are going to work together, as you're about to see. Ethan Hames, his name is a doctor at Texas Children's Hospital. And he's blowing the whistle on Texas Children's Hospital. He was on Tucker. This is what he had to say.
When I was working at Texas Children's Hospital, I was a surgical resident, which means I was in my training phase to become a board-certified surgeon. And while I was working there, the hospital had released a statement in March of 2022 that said they were unequivocally shutting down their transgender program because of the legal risks. And I quickly found out this was a complete lie, completely untrue. Just 3 days after that, they had placed a puberty blocking device into an 11-year-old girl. And I knew this because I worked at the hospital. I knew the people who were doing these procedures. They had told me about it. And I saw the frequency of these procedures increasing over the next couple of months. And then you see the directors of a program that supposedly does not exist given the opportunity to speak at the hospital's most prestigious lecture series. So they would teach these general pediatricians how to ask these children about their gender identity behind the backs of their parents. They would perpetuate the lie that either these kids have to adopt a false identity, become chronic medical patients, or they're going to kill themselves. And when I understood the extent of the deception that was happening, that Texas Children's Hospital told the public they were shutting down this program in March of 2022, but behind closed doors, they did the exact opposite. They increased the scope of its practice and prioritized it to the highest levels.
An 11-year-old girl. They're performing these things on 11-year-olds. Demonic. And so Dr. Haim comes forward and says they're still doing these procedures. They're doing them on 11-year-olds. They're doing them a lot. This stuff's still going on. So he blew a whistle on illegalities that were happening with his employer. Now, what happened next? Well, he sat down with Christopher Rufo. You want to talk about your evil institutions, the medical hut, the law enforcement hut? What if not only they become evil, they work together?
So the day I was graduating was June 23rd. It was a Friday morning, and I was in my apartment. My family was in town. I was getting ready for the ceremony later that night.
This is the night before?
No, this is the day of the graduation.
The day of, yeah.
The day of. Yeah, so it's around like 11 a.m., I think. And all of a sudden, I get an aggressive, unexpected knock on the door. I shuffle over. I'm wearing some stupid T-shirt and some shorts I had from college. I know who it was, and I open it, and standing outside are two federal agents. They say they're with Health and Human Services and that they're investigating a case regarding medical records, and they show me their badges. And it's one of those moments where time just stops. Yeah. And you know, looking back on it, it's like you read about political tyranny in other countries. I read about it my whole life growing up. But I knew at that moment it showed up to my doorstep.
Dr. Haim has now been indicted by those evil law enforcement institutions, and he's facing 10 years in prison. A whistleblower told the public about illegal child mutilation going on. It was illegal. The child mutilation, not only is it demonic and wrong, it was illegal. And the federal government sent its, let's just call them what they are, thugs, sent its thugs to his home. And now they're going to throw him in a cage for 10 years. Look, he's not a one-off even about this Texas children's thing. The nurse, Vanessa Savage, has since come forward and backed up a lot of Dr. Haim's claims. These things are still going on. It's really bad. And would you like to know what the federal government's response was to poor nurse Vanessa when she brought these things forward? It's almost as if they have a playbook they follow.
Hello? Hi. I'm looking for Vanessa Savage.
Okay. Yeah. Who are you? Cassie.
I'll make some FBI agent.
Okay.
This is Mr. McBride.
Hey, I'm David McBride.
Okay. Nice to meet you, sir.
Let me
It's
do
a
this.
really pleasant interaction here. Not any trouble nor
Yeah.
shame.
Okay. All right.
Hi, how are you?
She snuck up on you there.
You want to see too? Are we interrupting dinner? I'm really sorry.
That's all right. What's going on?
Let me start at the beginning. So I'm sure you're aware of some of the things that have been going on at your work lately.
With regards to,
Yeah. So can we sit down for a minute? Let me do my song and dance.
Let me just say a couple things to you. There's a couple practical things that you very well may need to know and practice. You don't ever talk to the FBI for any reason without your lawyer present. If you're on the way home and you see a man or woman pulled over on the side of the road changing their tire, and you pull over to help them, and they announce to you that they're with the FBI, you get back in your car and you drive home and you don't say another word. They do the buddy-buddy routine. You mind if I come in? You mind if I sit down? The second they say, I'm with the FBI, every answer out of your mouth is, lawyer, lawyer. Yeah, how's the weather today? Lawyer, what's your name? Lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. You don't talk to these evil KGB thugs ever. And allow me to explain something to the low-T GOP. The medical institutions in this country, in the Federal Bureau of Investigation, are evil, hostile to this nation, and they will tear this nation to bits if you allow them. So they don't need brand new buildings. They don't need headquarters. They need to be completely destroyed. The Federal Bureau of Investigation should fire every single employee, and then we'll decide which ones get arrested and sent to federal prison. That may sound extreme to you. You cannot have a free country and also have an evil secret state police agency. It doesn't work that way. If you're in the FBI and you're now just a thug for the dirty commies in charge, and they'll send you like a pit bull after American citizens whenever they need someone arrested or shot like they did to that fat old man in Utah, you're the bad guy. I don't know how we exist, what our plan is to deal with a nation that's institutions have turned this evil, but we had better deal with it. And if I have to hear one more person talk about, and the great men and women at the FBI, it's just a few bad apples at the top, I'm going to throw myself off a bridge. Chuck Schumer over the weekend. All right, Chuck Schumer, first let's acknowledge something. Chuck Schumer is a very, very, very powerful man. He is the Senate Majority Leader. He is the leader of the United States Senate. You could make an argument that Chuck Schumer is one of the most powerful people on planet Earth. I know that makes you want to vomit. It makes me want to vomit. It all hurts. I get all that. But Chuck Schumer is a big deal, a really, really, really big deal. And he put up and has since deleted a picture of him pretending to grill. Now, you may ask why he deleted it. And Mr. Producer, if you don't mind, would you just leave that picture up? Looking at me right now is not gonna do anything. So he deleted it. If you look really closely, you can see why he might delete it. He got some guff for that picture. He got guff for the picture because he's allegedly grilling and he has raw burgers on the grill and a piece of cheese laying on top of what is not only a raw burger that very clearly just came out of the pre-made package, but you don't put the cheese on the raw burger to melt it. Okay, so that's the picture. Now, I want you to leave the picture up if you don't mind, Mr. Producer. That picture's fine, whatever. I want you to think about this in a little more depth, because he's not the only one who's done something like this. I was going to show you the Kathy Hochul picture. She did the same thing, but set that aside. I want you to just look at this, and I want you to think about this. What went into this? The most powerful man in the United States Senate decided that he wanted to do something relatable, all right? So he and or his staffers, we don't know how many staffers were involved in this decision, he and or his staffers, they very clearly had a discussion about this. Hey, what do we do? How do I look normal? What do I do to look like I'm one of the people? And of course, they came up with grilling. What do those normal people do? What do the peasants do? Well, they grill, right? Okay, what do they grill? Burgers and dogs? Yeah, let's do that. And they went and they purchased some things at the store. They got a camera set up for the photo op. But this might be the part that fascinates me the most. Chuck Schumer or his staffers, actually everybody involved in this, they don't even know how. And this is not about cheeseburgers, and you know my love for cheeseburgers. This is not about grilling or not about anything. But the people who run the planet, we'll make this about America though, the people who run the United States of America, they are so disconnected from you. They are so disconnected from reality that even when they're bending over backwards to lie and pretend like they understand you or understand me, they are so disconnected from real people, they don't even know how to fake like they're grilling a cheeseburger. And again, look, Mr. Producer, you can put it up now if you want. I already teased it. Kathy Hochul, this is not a one-off. These Democrat politicians continue to do this. Kathy Hochul getting ready to serve up some raw burgers in her white dress. Yeah, that dress would look great, or skirt or whatever it is when you're done grilling up all this. And she caught all kinds of crap for that clearly fake picture. Not only do these people live a lie every moment of every day, everything they say, everything they do, none of it is genuine. It's all a lie. And they're lying to try to act as if they understand or care about you at all. But I have said this before. I know I've said it on my radio show, and I know I've said it to you here before. If the soul, every human being has a soul. If the soul was actually an organ in your body, let's say your soul is your heart. All right? It's just for argument purposes. So the soul is an organ. It's your heart. Now, I know what a heart looks like, a human heart. You've at least seen pictures of it or diagrams in the doctor's office. Maybe you are a doctor and you've seen one, but you know what a human heart looks like, right? So let's make that the soul. If you were to take the people who run this country and perform surgery on them and open them up, let's say maybe they even died, and you had to do an autopsy on them, you were to open up Chuck Schumer's chest, it wouldn't even look human compared to yours. You'd look at your soul and that of your family members and friends and everyone you know, and you would know that's what a human soul looks like. But these people, they're so depraved, so twisted, so fake, so, I don't even know. that what's inside of them isn't even recognizable as human anymore. And the most amazing thing about it is they don't even know how to pretend to be. It used to be they could at least pretend to know about what we know, to care about what we care about, to do the things that we do. These people are so disconnected from reality, they don't know how to pretend to grill a cheeseburger now. It's why, like, when you see people like Janet Yellen, this is actually a really great example. Janet Yellen is the Treasury Secretary. And it's important to understand about Janet Yellen, she's much more than that. She is the elite of the elite. You know, she worked for Obama, and as soon as Obama lost to Trump, Janet Yellen, she didn't go to the poorhouse, of course. She went right from Obama to working on Wall Street, clearing 3 million Goldman Sachs speeches, giving lessons to the smartest, most accomplished people in the world. And now she's back. She's Treasury Secretary. Okay, that's a really big deal. My goodness, America's monetary system, the Treasury, these are major, major things. And so this human being, just by the position she's held, the jobs, the everything else, everything should lead you to believe that Janet Yellen is the most connected human being on the planet, at least in the country, on what people are going through financially. Just by virtue of her position, she should be the smartest person in the country. And listen to this person.
I think the inflation that we experienced after the pandemic just compounded this feeling for them that life isn't affordable. I would point out, of course, that wages have also gone up during this time, and government studies show that for households at all points in the income distribution, wages have gone up somewhat more than prices.
Secretary Yellen, I only have about...
American is somewhat better off.
You're fine. Prices? Oh, wages have gone up more. Everything's fine. Everything's doing great. Nobody who's even vaguely connected with real normal people thinks everything is great right now. Across the country, everyone is suffering. Savings being drained, credit cards being maxed out. You name it. Financially, it's happening to the people out there. And yet the people who lead the country are so disconnected from us. They don't even know how to pretend to care about you. And speaking of the disconnect, look, it's not just Democrats. I saw last week the House passed the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. It's not a big military spending thing. $895 billion. And everyone was yelling about this or that part of it. Oh, the selective service is mandatory now. Oh my gosh, it's women. They're going to draft women. And everyone was focused on all those things. And all that stuff is fine. Focus on whatever you want. But $895 billion? Do you know how many politicians I saw complaining about that price tag on either side? 0. Oh, I saw some on the right complaining about the whole women getting drafted thing and all that stuff, but not a single Democrat or Republican that I saw. It may have happened, but I didn't see it. Not a single one that I saw complained about spending $895 billion. So allow me to explain this again for everyone who is confused. We don't have any money left. All the money is gone. They have looted the Treasury. We are now borrowing every single penny. We are borrowing it all. Non-discretionary spending, that's all the spending that's automatic that they can't touch. It gobbles up more than the entire federal budget. The interest on the debt alone will exceed military spending. And so allow me to explain this because no one seems to care about the debt but me and like 5 people. It's me and you and 5 other people. The reason you can't afford eggs and burger is because of Washington's spending and printing. Every new trillion here and trillion there and trillion here has made your life more expensive. And what you're involved in now, what you are in now, it's not a Biden blip. That's something we have to understand. Yes, Joe Biden and the Democrats have made everything worse, but this isn't a Biden blip that's going to get fixed if we just get Biden out of the White House. We are having our entire nation torn up, hollowed out, and gutted. And we are in the very beginning stages. I know it feels like we're deep in it. We are in the beginning stages. This is a taste of the financial disaster that is coming for a country that can no longer pay its bills and can no longer print its way out of having problems. And the people who will pay for that are you. You're the one who's going to pay. It won't be the Schumers. It won't be the Janet Yellens. You will just slowly and steadily watch your entire standard of living disappear like a vapor in a breeze. Why illegal immigration? Why, look, let's just talk about some moves Joe Biden's pulling recently. Joe Biden is shielding illegals now from being deported. You know, he gave that speech where he pretended like he was being tough on the border now. There's been no more border enforcement. In fact, since that speech, he's bent over backwards to protect not only just regular illegals, which are already criminals, I need to point out, but convicted criminals, shielding them from deportation. They're taking crazy steps now, saying, hey, if you're an illegal and you skip across the border and marry a U.S. citizen, boom, you're good to go. You can't be deported. They are bending over backwards to ensure everyone they've brought here can stay here, and they're bending over backwards. They are going all in now to bring in as many as humanly possible. Now, why? Well, I'll tell you something. There's something that hits me a lot. You've probably picked up on this if you watch the show, which obviously you watch the show you're watching now, but there's something that hits me a lot. How truly, truly evil and depraved the people are who lead this country. They are evil. And you want to hear how evil these people are? They have power, okay? They have power. The presidency, it's a very, very powerful thing. They have power, and they want to hang on to that power. And they want to destroy the country in the process because they will burn, an evil man, what's that old quote? An evil man will burn down his own country to rule over the ashes. That's Democrats in this country and Republican leadership, too. I need to point that out. Republicans love amnesty, too. But right now, Joe Biden's looking at, I don't want to say a loss in an election because it's way too early to say that, but the poll numbers are bad. It looks bad. It looks like there's a chance Joe Biden's going to be a 4-year president. The American people are sick over it. And part of the reason the American people are sick over Joe Biden's presidency is illegal immigration. So wrap your mind around that. The people are mad about illegal immigration, and that's going to result in Joe Biden being removed from office, losing his reelection. In response to that, the evil people who run this country are bringing in as many as they possibly can before they might lose the election. And the ones that are here, they're essentially building a wall around them to make sure they can't be deported. How evil is that? How evil is that? It is, and this is something that I've accepted and something I understand, something you and I have talked about before, but how do we deal with living in a country, sharing a country, remember we all live here, sharing a country with people who want to destroy it and are willing to do anything to keep power and destroy it? How do we handle that? Look, it's not just like this is a right-wing talking point. Around the planet, people know, these illegals know, hey, with Joe Biden there, we can do whatever we want to America.
We've been talking to migrants from all over the world arriving here into the San Diego sector. I talked to one man from Turkey. Here's what he had to say. What do you think of President Biden?
Biden, I love Biden.
Why do you love Biden?
Because Biden we love.
Why do you love him?
Biden help us.
That man was from Turkey. We've had hordes of military-age Chinese males. We've had how many people on the terrorist watch list that we know of being intentionally released into the country. By the grace of God, they've managed to track down a couple of them after the fact. But the people who run this country are so evil, they're hoovering up as much of the third world as humanly possible before they might lose the presidency. And people get confused as to why. Listen, Cloward Piven, I would highly recommend you go look up Cloward Piven. This is a phrase you've probably heard of before. They were a couple of communist professors, and they were trying to figure out, how do we destroy America? Honestly, that they wrote it down. How do we destroy this evil country that is America? And illegal immigration was a central part of their plan. The plan essentially is, no matter how big and powerful a country is, you can overwhelm its systems and bring about its collapse. You understand that your rent, mortgage is sky high because of illegal immigration? Your healthcare costs are sky high in part because of illegal immigration. The education system in this country is rotting out from underneath us. We have high school graduates who can't read or write now because, in part, of illegal immigration. Illegals are destroying wages, destroying the job market. You can't import millions of people from nations who have no loyalty to yours and continue to have a country, and that's why Democrats do it. How evil is that? And there's nothing they won't do. The Strategic Oil Reserve, you remember that? That's there for emergency purposes, as in WW3 cooks off. The Biden administration is once again draining the strategic oil reserve in an election year in order to keep gas prices low. Gas prices low. The people who lead the country are so inhumanly evil, they will put this country on dangerous ground without oil in order to keep power for themselves. You do understand that big, beautiful Navy we have, the Air Force we have, most of that goes right on the scrap heap without oil. You know what a plane without oil is worth? Nothing. In fact, a plane, a fighter jet without oil, it's worth less than your car. It'd be more militarily beneficial to strap a couple machine guns on your car and drive it at the enemy than have a plane that can't fly. We can have a military that is worth virtually nothing if we run out of oil. They know this, and they're draining it anyway. And you know what I do find funny? Not funny, horrific, but this whole Ukraine thing. We know, several reports have been out that now, a couple times over the last year, Vladimir Putin has come out and tried to negotiate an end to this. And this is not a celebration of Putin. He invaded, but Putin has come to the table and said, hey, we can end this thing. Very clearly, Russia has seized some of Ukraine. They're not going to be able to get them out. And Putin has said, okay, we got it. Let's come to an agreement. Let's end this thing. And yet, it's funny, the powers that be who run this country are adamant that Ukraine must go on without end. But at the same time, when it comes to things like Israel and their war with Hamas, those same people become peace hawks.
It's inconceivable that in the past few months, the administration has been withholding weapons and ammunition to Israel. Israel, America's closest ally, fighting for its life, fighting against Iran and our other common enemies. Secretary Blinken assured me that the administration is working day and night to remove these bottlenecks. I certainly hope that's the case.
Well, why are they treating it differently? Why are they treating one way and the other one the other way? Well, it's very clear that they have a vested monetary interest in keeping Ukraine going forever. And it's very clear they have a political interest in this whole Israel-Hamas thing going away. It's dividing the Democrat Party. It's making Joe Biden look bad. They're worried about all these protests and counter-protests that are probably going to be coming at the convention this year. So it's all of it is simply for selfish reasons. None of the people doing anything, making decisions for this country, are doing so on behalf of the country. They do everything they do only on behalf of themselves.